Republicans like Biden's student debt forgiveness plan. The Supreme Court, not so much. During oral arguments this week, the U.S. Supreme Court's conservative majority cast a skeptical eye on President Biden's plan to forgive, or at least reduce, more than 40 million people's student debt, likely imperiling one of the Democrats' signature policy initiatives. Among the sticking points for the conservative judges, so far, is that Biden lacks the congressional authority needed to provide over $400 billion in student loan forgiveness, a move justified as a response to the COVID-19 pandemic. "We take very seriously the idea of separation of powers and that power should be divided to prevent its abuse," said Chief Justice John Roberts. "This is a case that presents extraordinarily serious, important issues about the role of Congress and about the role that we should exercise in scrutinizing that." Biden's student debt plan has plenty of defenders outside the Supreme Court, though. In the lead-up to Tuesday's hearing, a bevy of interest groups and borrowers who would be affected by the decision penned op-eds or took to the streets in an attempt to plead with the court against overturning Biden's decree. And polls, too, suggest that the public is broadly in favor of student debt relief programs, at least to some extent. According to a February Beacon Research/Shaw and Company Research for Fox News poll, conducted just before the oral arguments took place, a majority of respondents, 62%, said that at least some student debt should be forgiven, though they didn't agree on just how much forgiveness was appropriate. Of that total number, 25% said that all college loan debt should be forgiven, while a larger percentage, 37%, said that only amounts of up to $20,000, which is double the amount of Biden's plan for most borrowers, should be forgiven for people making up to $125,000 annually. 36% of respondents, meanwhile, said no loan debt amount should be forgiven. Other polls have similarly shown broad support for Biden's plan. A YouGov/Economist survey conducted from February 20 to 21 found that 53% of U.S. adults either strongly or somewhat supported the federal government canceling up to $10,000 in student loans for people who earn less than $125,000 a year. In the same poll, 44% of respondents said that the federal government has at least some responsibility to address student loan debt, while 40% said that it doesn't. It does look like Biden found a sweet spot in terms of just how much debt to forgive. Most polls I looked at for this story found support for the $10,000 forgiveness he's proposing for non-Pell Grant recipients, although it wasn't overwhelming. In that February YouGov/Economist survey, about half, 51%, of respondents said that amount of debt forgiveness was too little, 28%, or about right, 23%, while one-third, 32%, of respondents said that $10,000 was too much. That roughly 50% threshold has held steady over the past few months, too. Back in August, when Biden first announced the initiative, two polls, one from Quinnipiac University and the other from YouGov/The Economist, put support among registered voters for it at 51% and 52%, respectively. That support for Biden's proposal makes sense considering the myriad benefits of canceling student debt. To be sure, there are some well-documented fears among Americans that slashing student debt would worsen inflation and/or that it doesn't address just how expensive colleges have become. Still, some estimates predict that relieving student debt could add up to 1.5 million jobs to the market and lift over 5 million Americans out of poverty, in addition to freeing many Americans of the debt trap that appears to be contributing to a lagging housing market and widening racial wealth gap. Other research suggests that those saddled with student loan debt might be more likely to get married or have children if their dues were forgiven. That said, there's a clear race and age gap when it comes to support for loan forgiveness. Support among Black, 72%, and Hispanic, 58%, adults was substantially stronger than it was among white respondents, 47%, per the February YouGov/The Economist poll, which makes sense considering Black people often start out with more student debt than their white counterparts and also pay it down more slowly. Voters younger than 45, 36% for ages 18 to 29 and 37% for ages 30 to 44, gave the plan decent support, too, which also isn't a huge surprise since younger Americans are similarly disproportionately likely to hold student debt. A December Morning Consult/Politico survey yielded similar results. Though it didn't ask about a specific dollar amount, pollsters found that 41% of Black registered voters and 30% of Hispanic ones, compared with 20% of white respondents, said that it should be a priority for Congress to pass a bill providing student loan relief to Americans. There was an age divide here, too. A plurality of surveyed voters younger than 45, 36% for ages 18 to 34 and 28% for ages 35 to 44, agreed that it should be a top priority. But, like the courts, some surveys suggest that voters are split on whether Biden's executive order exceeded his presidential powers. The February Fox News poll found that 44% of respondents said that he acted within his authority, while 49% said that he overstepped his boundaries. Of course, these numbers aren't likely to mean much to the Supreme Court's conservative justices. Some polls, too, suggest that the public isn't expecting the court to side with Biden, either. Like other pending cases before the High Court these days, this is an inherently political fight because the court itself is political, but the justices are the ones who hold the power. That's today's latest news. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment so that this channel can continue to exist. Thank you for listening to the end and I hope it's useful.